And then encouraging you to call it a miscarriage. See, there again, we're being shamed for the piece of our story that needs the holding, needs the care. And it's why we make these TFMR groups. It's why I made the TFMR grief circle for us, because we need specific care around the very specific roller coaster of the medical diagnosis and the politicalness around all of this. We need that. This is our TFMR stories. I'm Sabrina. I'm a TFMR lost mom to my daughter Clara. I had to end my wanted pregnancy for hydrops, cystic hygroma, potential chromosomal defects, and for my own health. And now I help other TFMR parents in their darkest hour, parenting through the impossible. If you're listening to this, you found me, and that means you're not alone anymore. You can talk to someone about this. Email me or book a call. I've been through it too, and I want to hear from you. The subtle and the horrible, the sneaky and the not so sneaky things that are said to us about TFMR. These are the comments that can really burn, they can really hurt. And they're the comments and the things that are said to us in general grief spaces that are just not okay. And we're going to be talking about that today. And I have a lot of comments that a lot of you have shared. Unfortunately, many of us have heard these things. And I have too. I think one of the worst misunderstandings, that it's not even a misunderstanding, it's like blatant hate towards TFMR, was someone had sent me the link to some Facebook group, and they said, these are our group rules. It was a pregnancy loss, baby loss group. These are our group rules. Be kind, do whatever, all those regular rules. And then one of them was no talk about abortion. Well, I cannot disconnect my TFMR from the abortion experience. I cannot pull apart the decision and the love. I cannot just clamp down and never talk about the abortion part if I want to fully process and heal and find true understanding, not someone in some group who just assumes that it's a, regular miscarriage or regular stillbirth. They're not getting the whole story, and worse, I'm not getting the full healing. So I think that was one of the worst things I saw. But of course, like, to them, they may see that as subtle, or that's just our rules. Well, I know that space is not for me. So let's keep talking about it. Let's talk about, the subtle and not so subtle things that have been said to you in grief spaces, in general baby loss spaces, in these places that should be for our healing, and then we find out that they're actually not. And if you're commenting, I don't know if I'm able to see the comments. So I will definitely come back to the comments after the live is reposted. And I have been posting these lives on the podcast, our TFMR stories, so you can go and watch them there too, because Facebook likes to delete them after 30 days. So if they're gone from here, they will eventually be up on the podcast as well. All right, so let's get into some of the subtle things that we've heard and why these are not okay. And before I go into the specific things, I want to let you know that we have an opening in one of our specific for TFMR groups, where you will find the understanding, where there will not be subtle shade thrown at you, where your whole story your whole story and your whole heart, and the whole of all of the struggles with the decision and what it means to go through TFMR is more than welcome. It is the point. So the next small group, our Ascend TFMR Grief Circle, is starting tomorrow on Wednesday, and there's still time to join. So I have the link here in the comments. Please send me a message, even if you think, oh, did I miss it? No, you didn't miss it. I've even had some people join the small groups like after the first time that we meet. You can still join. So come in and join us. And I'm also thinking about putting together a Sunday group, Sunday at noon Eastern time. So if that time could work better for you, this is definitely the space for you, where, yeah, the subtle and horrible things. No, because this facilitator knows and says no to that. So, okay, one of the subtle things that I've seen in pregnancy loss spaces is, I wrote this in the group, the subtle art in some pregnancy loss spaces of not deleting comments like, well, I would never. And then when they leave these comments up and public, it speaks volumes. Like this says more than anything the facilitators or the grief person or the therapist or whoever's leading that group could ever say. The fact that they leave those comments up and public shows that they're not understanding, that that is a very judgmental comment, because it's so easy to say, well, I would never, when you haven't been through it. Honestly, like a lot of us here in this group, a lot of us who have been through TFMR may have even thought that ourselves before going through it ourselves. And then when you go through it, you realize, oh, this is so much more complicated than anyone even talks about. Because it's so medical and it's so layered, and it goes into like societal factors, like, are you even able to access that specific type of care for that specific type of whatever the diagnosis is in your baby or yourself in your area, or your financial needs, all of these things. And they're not talked about, because when we talk about them, we get these comments, and then the grief facilitators leave them up. Well, I would never. No, those need to be deleted. That person needs to be given at least a warning, if not kicked out, because everybody's grief story and everybody's pregnancy loss story is so different, and we make so many like micro decisions throughout the whole process of all these different types of pregnancy losses that maybe someone else wouldn't make. And you know what? Yes, because that is motherhood and that is parenthood, that we all make different decisions about different parts of how we're going to raise, birth, bring our children into this world. We make different decisions, and places that are for motherhood, parenthood, pregnancy loss should be able to hold those differences in a way that is sensitive and makes sense to everybody in the group. Because some of the people who, and they've even joined this time, some of the people who have joined the grief circle this time, some of their concerns were, well, but I worry that my story is too much. Oh, and that breaks my heart, right? Because we each have those places in our stories that we feel like, well, is the medical trauma too much? Or is my diagnosis, was it too gray? Or maybe it's too much because I had to terminate one of the twins, and then I was still pregnant, or I am still pregnant. Can I still join the group? Like, is it too much? Is it too much that I'm already thinking about trying to conceive again? Or is it too much that, I'm very conflicted about trying to conceive again, and all of that is coming up with the TFMR. And I just want you all to know, yes, there is a space for you. Yes, there's a space for you with whatever is feeling like too much. And in the grief circle, we're able to hold all of those differences together, because I have very specific member agreements that are laid out, and we read them at the beginning of every circle. And here inside of the Facebook group, we're navigating that too, right? Like some people are trying to conceive again. Some people are pregnant again. Some people are like, oh my gosh, this was my first pregnancy and I can't even think about trying to conceive again. And, and like seeing these posts with, like a positive pregnancy test, it's a lot. So we have, we have our trying to conceive thread. We have our pregnancy after loss thread. All of these things are very intentional, and it's so that each part of your story is welcome here. Oh, good. I'm able to see the comments. Excellent. So I'm gonna read this comment from someone who's here live. So in Florida, I had to wait for approval from the medical committee as well, even after being told our situation. So even after deciding, I still had to wait and grieve before it even happened. Yes, it's all of these, they can feel subtle. They're not subtle. These differences between when it's a natural death in pregnancy, miscarriage, stillbirth, compared to the medical trauma and the societal and the political factors that we are all up against when we're going through TFMR, and the grief that comes from it. It's the grief that comes from these specific pieces of our story that is so deserving of care and being witnessed and held. So like, this group that I was talking about, the pregnancy loss space that says, I would never, or the pregnancy loss space that said, you're never allowed to talk about abortion. Well, that cuts us off before we're even allowed to heal. And there was another comment from someone else. A similar thing happened in another Facebook group. So they wrote, I don't know if this is subtle or not, but I recently saw another Facebook group that was for parents after a second trimester loss. And in their rules, it said you couldn't join if you had gone through TFMR because that would upset others. And they didn't want to get political. And you should just look for a specific group for TFMR parents. It made me feel horrible, like I didn't deserve to call myself a parent in loss, like I chose this and my experience didn't upset me as well, as if I wanted this to happen and I wanted to lose my baby. I don't understand why a medical decision that affects no one but myself and my partner family has to be made political, and therefore I'm not allowed to share it. Because it's all of these, it's this subtle and direct shade thrown at us. Like, well, if you did that, you're not allowed here in this group. Man, that cuts to the heart because, yes, you are a parent. Yes, this affects your family. Yes, this is baby loss. Yes, of course, you didn't want to lose your baby, but all of these things can make you feel like, well, you chose it. Let's see. Oh, I thought there was another comment here. So if there's another comment, I may be able to see it. I may not. So I'm going to keep reading the other comments that we've shared so far in the Facebook group, and please keep commenting. I will come back and answer them after the live if I can't see them right now. So we had another person comment about what they had heard in awful or subtle things that had been said in general grief spaces about TFMR. And they said, not super subtle, but I'm sure many of us have encountered this. People talking about not getting NIPT testing because it wouldn't change anything for them. What a privileged view to have. There's something so deep about this. Our babies are going to change us. Of course we're changed. Every single child, every single pregnancy outcome, every single thing that you go through pregnancy, and then the roller coaster of getting a diagnosis and TFMR, it's going to change us. And it's going to change these families, even if I won't change any, you're going to be changed. You're going to be changed by your child. And there's this underlying assumption that The second part of this comment that I've heard some people say, I wouldn't change anything because I would love them anyway. And someone else had written about this too. I think it was Kate. I hope I put her comment here. Oh shoot, I didn't copy her exact comment, but she said, that it's really hard to see when people say, I wouldn't do that because I would love them anyway. Oh, that cuts so hard, because that's assuming that we don't love our children. That we did this because we don't love them, when it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. And it's this abortion, that abortion is throwing the baby away. Abortion is, I didn't want this baby. But in our case, and I think in many, 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 many abortion cases, many of all kinds, there is no throwing away. There is love, and there is responsibility, and there is knowing that this cannot happen in this way at this time. And that is coming from this place that is so intentional and beautiful and full of love and full of thinking of that being, and thinking of that being's lifespan, what this could look like throughout the decades, or maybe the decades after I'm dead and gone. What will happen to this child if they need, such intense care, and we know that there's so much abuse that happens in those places? How is that not a responsible and love-filled decision to make for that baby, for their future life, to save them of that? Wouldn't change anything. It changes everything, and it changes you. Okay, so we have another comment. Someone said to this person, the people that are well-meaning, that say things like, well, what you had wasn't an abortion, or encourage you to call it a miscarriage instead. So let's just look at this part of the comment. People who are well-meaning and say, well, what you had, that wasn't an abortion. Spelled S-H-U-N, shun. No need to shun you for this. Well, it actually is. That is the medical term for any type of intervention that ends in the baby, the fetus, the pregnancy ending. And it really was. I'll tell you why it really was. I had to sign paperwork that said, yes, I've thought about adoption. Who wrote that paperwork? That wasn't the medical office. That wasn't my doctor. That's some political piece of paperwork that I have to sign before I get an abortion for my baby, who was already sick, and I could have become sick too with the condition that she was carrying. I was thinking about all of us. Of course I had considered adoption. I had considered every single 1,000 ways that this could go. And I had to consider every single 1,000 ways that this could go because I was responsible. So it's this, what you had wasn't an abortion, also cuts off any type of medical or political or societal trauma that we've been through. If we've had to cross state lines, if we've had to sign paperwork like this, if we've then not been let into regular baby loss grief spaces that say never talk about abortion, or if it's a TFMR, well, you better go look somewhere else. We have another comment here from someone live about the NIPT testing. So with my loss, I learned so much more than with my first child. And even if you don't do the NIPT testing, there's over 250,000 things, yeah, probably more, that can happen that I had no idea about. And they don't test for it all because it's too much. I learned that this time around with the high-risk doctor, because I asked why the NIPT didn't cover our situation. Exactly. This is so much more complicated than a choice. And it's like, I'm not choosing between a bologna sandwich and the turkey sandwich here. This is like, we've seen specialists, we've done echocardiograms on a baby, we've gone up to like the higher level, we've done multiple ultrasounds, or maybe, you through one test, you knew that's what we had to do through one test. For me, it was through one ultrasound as well. That doesn't make my choice any less or bigger or smaller or gray or more. It's just like each of these medical situations are so complicated. And a lot of the things that they're testing for, some of these are screening tests, and then you have to go on to the next level. So it wasn't an abortion. Okay. Tell that to the laws in my state. You go tell them it wasn't an abortion. You tell them, Jan. And then encouraging you to call it a miscarriage. See, there again, we're being shamed for the piece of our story that needs the holding, needs the care. And it's why we make these TFMR groups. It's why I made the TFMR grief circle for us, because we need specific care around the very specific roller coaster of the medical diagnosis and the politicalness around all of this. We need that. Someone else got the at least statements, so the things that are said to us, or the at least statements, like at least you found out in your first trimester. And people will say this to people who even lost a baby in the third trimester or stillbirth. Well, at least you didn't meet them. Or those are the places where our grief hurts. Those places. I hurt and I grieve because I didn't get to meet her. I hurt and I grieve because my loss was earlier and then it was a D. I didn't get to hold her. I grieve the missing of those places where I could have connected to my baby. So those at least sentences or statements, they're soothing the person who's saying them. They're not soothing us. And if you say an at least statement for yourself, that's a different thing. I'm allowed to say at least I found out, I do say that, like, thank God I found out at the time I did, because I only had a week to decide with the time limits. If it would have been beyond that, I would have had to go through the shamey ethics medical committee as well. I didn't want to go through that. I would have done that if that would have been part of my story too. That would have been another thing to grieve. That would have been another piece of the medical trauma. All of these things are real. They're so real, and they deserve a place where you can share all of them, where people are actually listening with a kind ear. And let's see, another subtle, maybe less subtle thing that people have heard. Jen said this one. Oh, I thought of another one. It's a little less subtle, but it was always said with such a tone. But I thought Turner syndrome is just a learning disability. Yeah, it's that word just, isn't it? Without understanding that it's a lot more complicated than that, and that my baby had more to her diagnosis than just Turner syndrome alone. Ugh. Yes. Yes to all of that. It's the medical complexity. And what I want you to know is you're not too much with the medical complexity. It's the abortion spaces that can't handle our too much medical complexity, and it's the baby loss and general grief spaces that can't handle the too much choice of it all. Like, they're the ones who can't handle it. But here we can, and we want to hear it, and I want to hear from you. I want to hear your story. I want to talk to you. I talk to everybody who joins the grief circle before they join. And if you're thinking about joining the sanctuary as well, that's our monthly drop-in. I'll meet with you too. I'd love to hear your story. And I'm also going to start sending out a link for the Connect chat after you join the Facebook group too, because you're part of this community, and these are the places where we can talk about these things, where we can process these things. Okay, so we have a few more comments, and they're all really good. So another member said, I don't know if this is subtle or not, but I recently saw another Facebook group that was for parents after, oh no, wait, I already read this one. Okay, let's go on to the next one. I personally found it hard as we were going through surrogacy and looking at surrogate profiles where most of them read that they could get a pregnancy. Yeah, I've heard this. People have no term on their surrogacy profiles. And this person said, it made me feel awful. We thought that too initially, but you never know how you'll change when you go through an experience like this. I respect their decision, and I know they are doing something truly awesome for someone else, but it's hard seeing that sentence written into so many profiles. Yes, because it's like layer upon layer upon layer. It just feels like barrier upon barrier, like another wall, another wall, another wall. Like in the general grief space, don't talk about this. In the abortion spaces, well, don't make it so baby shaped. It's like, yeah, and the question, no term, meaning they won't terminate. Yeah, that's like the terms that they're using in on these surrogate profiles. Like someone looking to be a surrogate, they'll put no term. Like they will not do a TFMR. And yeah, it can just cut so deep to the places in our stories where we're already feeling tender. And that's why all of these comments feel so tender, because we already feel tender in those places too. And they're the exact places that we need to talk to other people about, or hear their stories, or work through with a perinatal therapist, or with me, a TFMR doula, you know, someone who's able to hold those complexities and still see you as a parent, and still see this as a parenting experience. I think a lot of the things that bring all of these comments together is that they dismiss the parenting of this all. Like, this isn't an abortion, so I won't have to parent. No. This is a medical procedure that has to happen because I'm parenting. And some of these comments and the things that people say, and like, it was your choice, you know, can make it feel like, no. It's like calling TFMR a choice in a derogatory way. Those are the kinds of comments that are not appropriate. Here's another one. So someone else in the group said, in a general baby loss group from a baby loss midwife, she said, well, you don't have to explain all the details of your specific loss. You are all grieving mothers anyway. So here, this is subtle, right? It's so subtle because she's saying, you're welcome. You're welcome to come because you're a grieving mother. Like, at least she got that part right. She got that part right, but she didn't get the other part right. About not needing to explain because you could make someone else feel uncomfortable. Imagine how uncomfortable we feel. And we deserve to talk about those specific places in our stories that are hard, and that those are the heartbreak places. And isn't that what grief and grief healing and trauma healing and all of that, it's to heal those hard places. But if they're so unspeakable, then they become silenced and pushed down, and then there's a shame layer and a guilt layer on top, and then they're going to pop out sideways in a chronic illness flare in our bodies because, you don't have to tell all the details. Okay, so that was my little aside, and there's more to that comment. So I want to read the rest of her comment too, because it's very important. So she says, well, yes, we are mothers, but TFMR and comfort care by choice, this is in quotations, are so important in our parenting stories, and they form our specific grief reaction. We need to talk about these details. If not, we feel very lonely and misunderstood. Yes. And what happens when you feel lonely and misunderstood? well, then it's much harder to get to the healing. If you feel silenced and clamped down on, then it's much harder to get to the heart and the reconnecting with your baby and reconnecting with their place in your family and having the proper grief rituals that a body need, like our bodies need that. One of the things that I say in the TFMR grief circle is that just being in the circle is the medicine. Bringing your body to the circle, being there with others, being witnessed as someone else who has been through a horrific baby loss, as someone else who remembers this baby, as someone else who doesn't see this as just a political act. Like, it's not a political act. It's a medical procedure. You know, you're being seen as who you are in the circle. And that is so healing. That is the healing to the loneliness and the misunderstanding. Okay, we got a couple more questions or comments to get through here, because these are all so good. It's so good to talk about the subtleties around them. So this is another comment that someone got. This is why we stopped family planning after 2 healthy kids. That's the comment that was said to them. This is why we stopped. We didn't want to take the risk to have a further kid with disability or having to choose between our kids. Oh, that's just so rough. And see, again, it's like going back to, it's your choice. You chose it. We didn't choose this. Even if you're a genetic carrier, you're not choosing at a cellular level to choose that egg and that sperm. You're not choosing. We're not wishing this on our children, nor are we wishing to have a TFMR and lose our baby. No one is wishing for this. And what shame, to put that on someone else. Like, well, like for your age or for your life decisions. I beat myself up so much. I beat myself up way more than anything that anyone could ever say to me about, well, I waited until after 30. Well, I partied in my 20s. Well, it must have been this. Well, it must have been my husband's sperm. Well, we're older. I was already having those comments. We don't need to hear those comments from another person. They can take that to their own therapist. I'm feeling very judgmental of people who go through TFMR. Bring that to your own therapist. We don't need to hear that. And another comment here, live. A choice none of us wanted to make. For sure. Okay, we have another comment that I want to read from in the group, another story. I think the one I am dealing with most and closely with is my own father is just not understanding. The doctors informed us our daughter would not live outside the womb, and we were running out of amniotic fluid, so we had to make the decision at 22 weeks. He continues to question why I believe doctors and not God, and why I didn't carry to full term, because you never know, she could have made it. And I am a huge science believer. Once she runs out of fluid completely, she wouldn't survive based on her body parts not growing properly or fully. So many things play a factor, and having faith isn't going to fix that. At the end of the day, science is fact to me. Her lungs were severely underdeveloped. Her kidneys weren't working and enlarged. We were on borrowed time. Just people spewing things with no knowledge to our situation. Yes, and these are the types of things that are said to us in grief circles, general grief spaces. You should have just let nature take its course. You know what? Nature is severe. And you know what? I am also nature. I am a part of nature. And a doctor is also part of nature, and the brilliant minds that have found out all of this genetic information and made these tests, that is also a part of nature. And these are the types of things that we talk about all the time in the grief circle. These are the types of things that we continue to talk about here in the Facebook group. And it's so important to share these stories, because why did you believe doctors? Like, yes, that can be a subtle to horrific thing that is said to us, TFMR parents. Like, did you really believe the doctor? Like, yeah, I did. Yeah, honestly, I did. And coming together and sharing our stories can help us renew that center that we already had in ourselves, even if it felt very shaky, even if it felt like, oh, should I choose this? Should I choose this? And yes, of course, this is a huge decision. So of course we're going to look at all the angles as we're making the decision. And of course we're going to continue to look at all the angles of it, even later, even after, especially at like a year anniversary, around the due date. All of those things can come up for you again. Or maybe you just have this renewed sense of, yes, I know I did the right thing. It was awful. It was horrible. My baby has died, and I hate that it had to be that way. And I know, and I trust in the doctors and the medicine, and what I remember, like, what I saw myself with my own eyes on the ultrasound. I was the one there carrying her in my womb. That's me in that moment. And I have that. And those people and all these other people making all these little comments, like, they don't have that. And you know what they also don't have? They don't have a connection with my baby, because she's my daughter. I'm the mother. I am the mother forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And she is always part of this family tree and our ancestral line, and always, no matter what all these subtle to horrible things other people say. No. And, it's because of the ways that we have been failed over and over again in these different spaces. That's why I've built all of these spaces just for us. That's why. This is exactly why. Like, all of these comments, they just continue to prove my point that we deserve and we need and we love to have these spaces where it's just TFMR, where it's other people who have been through lots of different types of termination for medical reasons, all different types of procedures, all different types of diagnosis. Maybe they're trying to conceive again, maybe they're not. Maybe some people have many children, maybe some people will never have children. But we come together because we deserve the same wonderful grief care that other people get. We deserve that, and you deserve that. So I just want to mention one more time that we have our Wednesday group starting tomorrow, and the link is here. It should already be pinned in the comments. But I'll put it here in the replay again too. For our Ascend small group grief circle, we stay together, just a few of us, between 3 to 5. So it's a small group. You get to share your what's coming up for you in each circle, and we stay together. So it's different from the drop-in groups. The drop-in groups are great too, and we have those too in the sanctuary. But with these small spaces, it's the same people each time. So you get to know everyone's story a little bit deeper each time we meet, and a little bit deeper, and another layer, and another angle. And then it helps you look at another layer and another angle of your own story. And it helps you see, yeah, actually, I have been failed by all of these other places. And that therapist who knew nothing about TFMR and was like, oh, your choice? Yes, I want you to know you have been failed by all of those other places. And you deserve to find kind, compassionate, caring places where you can bring your whole story and your whole you. Because that's and your whole baby, all of them to this circle. and all of our babies are there together, and we light our candles for all of them at the beginning of every circle. And I have my candle lit here on this live for all of your babies too, because that's the crux, that's the heart of it, is our babies. A baby has died. You are a parent grieving, and you deserve this grief care. Thank you for listening in today. I want to finish today's episode by inviting you again to join us in our upcoming group grief circle, Ascend. If you are looking to heal your heart, feel safe in your body again, and experience grief and trauma healing modalities live with other compassionate TFMR parents like you, come join us. You can find more info and apply at the tfmrdoula.com/ascend-apply, and that link will be in the show notes or in the description wherever you listen to your podcasts. And take care. Subscribe to this podcast. It means so much. Leave a review, share it with a TFMR bestie or someone who you think would like this episode.